Okay, now I'm curious, Glenn. How do you know what a microwave fart sounds like?
Simple. I listen to one of your mixes. Good morning. Hope you're having an awesome day. Hopefully this episode's going to make your day just a little bit better. It's been a couple weeks since I posted one of these. Just looking at the feedback I've been getting over the last few episodes, I don't think anybody really minds if I don't do these every week. And honestly, I'd rather not do them every week because I just hate doing anything regimented like that. I spent enough time on an assembly line to have everything all laid out for me and planned and always being on time and just, I want to do this show and be creative with it and have fun with it. And having to hit a weekly release schedule just kind of does take a little bit of the joy out of it. And by joy, I mean we get to answer really amazing statements like this one.
Meh, I'll take SRVs. Starts aren't supposed to have double humbuckers.
Yep, this guitar definitely breaks some of the rules as laid out by the guitar police. First and foremost, starts aren't supposed to have double humbuckers. I think that should probably go on a t-shirt at some point. I think that's great up there with basses left and guitar no, bads yes. Now we've got starts aren't supposed to have double humbuckers. When you're laying down the laws to the rest of us as to what's acceptable on a guitar and what's not acceptable, at least try to explain yourself in a way that is conducive to getting your idea across. I've played a lot of strats, but I've never played a start. Who makes those? All right, so this next one is actually a three-pointer. It's kind of an interesting conversation happening in the comments. I thought it's a lot of fun. I'm going to comment at the end because I think this is just great.
Pickups are the best upgrade. This idiot doesn't have a clue.
Okay, let's see where this goes.
Hey, Glenn, I think we know who gets your Butthurt of the Week prize. Another genius that's an expert at studio recording metal. It's the Pickups, Glenn. OMG.
Thanks, Randy.
Randy's rides. I am a studio expert. I am a musician. I know what Glenn doesn't know.
Well, first off, it's Glenn with two N's, not one, so wrong there. Groper6793. This one's been coming for a little while. For those of you who don't know, Groper is just one of those guys who leaves comments. Apparently, I can never do anything right in his eyes. I'm always wrong. It's very much a political thing rather than a fact-based argument. The guy just hates my guts for whatever reason, and I've got no animosity to him whatsoever. I mean, like, seriously, dude. I hope whatever you're doing in your life brings you joy. One thing I've learned over the last 6 months is life's far too short to be angry at people over stupid nonsense. Now, I do have a question for you. Since you are a self-proclaimed studio expert, maybe you can enlighten me and maybe you can enlighten somebody else who's watching this as well. You claim that the pickups are the best upgrade. So if pickups are the key to guitar sound, why is it that somebody like Zakk Wylde has a very different sound from somebody like Kerry King, who has a very different sound, say, compared to James Hetfield? Because all of those guys are EMG players. Certainly, if the pickup was the deciding factor in the guitar sound, those guys would all sound extremely similar, and yet they don't. Obviously, a studio expert should be able to explain this phenomenon in a way that mere mortals such as myself and anybody else watching this show can understand. I'd really like to be enlightened here, because if I'm missing something, I'd like to know what I'm missing. So the ball is in your court. Please enlighten me. So originally this was supposed to end yesterday, and I've just been overwhelmed with so much stuff going on in my personal life and a lot of driving around to medical appointments, whatnot. I did manage to get this whole thing extended for one day. It's once a year. That's the only time you're going to see this. Here we go. It has returned! Lurching from the icy depths of the Canadian tundra, the Spectre digital spring thing is back! And this year, it's fully armed and operational! You're getting Icon Drums, our brand new face-smashing drum library built for classic rock and modern metal, and the Singularity virtual bass instrument. Finally unleashed, ready to drop more low-end destruction than a collapsing star. But that's just the beginning. You're going to get all of my courses, total heavy guitar, producing prog metal, mixing symphonic folk metal, and mixing metal and Reaper with free plugins. Because why not learn from somebody who actually gives a crap about your sound? Still breathing? Good, because there's even more. You're gonna get Savage Grooves, Metal Essentials Volumes 1 and 2, plus the Blackened MIDI pack, and yes, even Alex Nasla's mixing and mastering a full metal album. It's over $1,240 worth of metal-approved production firepower, and it's all yours for only $224. But be warned, when the clock runs out, the thing disappears. No reruns, no mercy. Grab the spring thing now before it returns to the depths for another year.
I have a question in these examples using combos, but you're only using it as an amp and running it through a separate cab. It achieves a much better tone, undoubtedly, but wouldn't get the same result by just replacing the speaker in the combo with a nicer one? Also, do you have any videos regarding cheaper alternatives to Celestion Vintage 30s that sound as good / better? I'm assuming I missed it, but it would be cool. Also, do you have any videos dedicated to making a good cheap home studio, i.e. what laptop to get, speakers, headphones, audio interface, etc.? I'd love to see that.
Wow, lots to unpack in that. Thank you for asking some questions where I might actually be helpful. It's always fun answering dumb statements, but I don't think there's such a thing as a dumb question. You know, we're all new at one point or another, and I do want to help you avoid making mistakes that I made as I was learning, and hopefully I'll save you some money along the way. That's the ultimate goal of this show. There's so much mythology built into home recording, and it's hilarious that most of these old wives' tales, or in this case, old boomer tales, don't even stand up to the most basic scrutiny once you start doing actual A/B comparisons. And the amount of coping going on in the comments once you debunk this stuff is just absolutely hilarious. Anyway, to answer your question here, yes, you could upgrade the speaker in a combo, but that's not the only part of it. Geometry in a cabinet is a big deciding factor in the overall sound coming out of it. And that's why I like hooking up combos to bigger cabinets, because they record better, they sound better. Just taking the back off a cabinet will have a tremendous impact in the guitar's sound. That's not something I pulled out of my ass. That's something I've measured and showed on the show. When I reviewed a Palmer cabinet there a couple years back, it had a removable back plate, and you could see the A/B comparison. You could not only hear the A/B, but you could see it on a graph as well. Very fascinating stuff. So while old combo tube amps are amazing, I do recommend using at minimum a 2x12 and if possible a 4x12, because that's a big part of the sound. Not so much the cabinet material, plywood, MDF, doesn't really fucking matter. It's more down to the geometry. Now, as for cheaper alternatives to the Celestion Vintage 30s, I would definitely check out some of the Mojo Tone stuff. They've got some Vintage 30 type speakers, which are pretty great. I love the BV25Ms. That's kind of their take on the greenback. And the BV30Hs are just awesome as well. WGS Speakers makes the Veteran 30, which is a little bit cheaper than the Vintage 30 as well. Killer stuff. WGS has a whole line of just simply incredible speakers you're not going to go wrong with. You can check them out over at Sweetwater if you're based in the States. And great thing about Sweetwater is free shipping in the States. Very cool stuff. And as per your last question, also, do you have any videos dedicated to making a good cheap home studio? I did a video a couple years ago called the $1,500 Home Studio. That's still up on YouTube. I really need to follow that up. Thank you for prodding me on that. And I'm also got something coming up in the next few weeks. I'm going to have a big announcement, because there has been a lot of work going on behind the scenes that a lot of you guys are really going to like. And I'm going to be adding some of what you just asked for into that particular project. Once again, stay tuned for that. If you're just starting out home recording, you are not going to want to miss that one.
I just bought an Axe-Fx Ultra for $300.
But when I started this show and talked about the Axe-Fx and the problems with using it on stage without a cabinet to monitor it through and trying to rely on local sound guys, a lot of the feedback I got was that the Axe-Fx was never going to be outdated. And yet you picked one up for $300. Are you telling me that the people in the YouTube comments were wrong? Wow, that's never happened before. Now, instead of the butthurt of the week, we already had a bit of a troll bait thing there earlier in the episode. I thought we'd try something a little bit different. We're going to do the nice comment of the week, because that's rare. Usually I just get told how much of an idiot I am, and it's kind of nice to hear some positive feedback for once in a while.
I wonder if people truly appreciate just how much hard work goes into these videos, with all the graphics, animations, editing, and all that's even before the great information. Thanks, Glenn. We're blessed that you're out there sharing your knowledge.
Well, thank you very much, Rod. I really do appreciate that. It is nice to get some thank yous every once in a while instead of the usual screaming nonsense I get when I start poking holes in people's fantasies about what makes a guitar sound the way it does when you mic it up. Anyway, thanks so much again for that. That kind of makes it all worth it. I greatly appreciate that. And you have yourself a wonderful day.
Is there any point in having a 100-watt amp? It seems like 20-watt amps work fine for the studio. In a live situation, most venues will mic the amp anyway, so monitors are doing most of the work. I've seen bands play live with 5-watt amps with no volume issues. Having more speakers makes more sense than having more power if you want volume, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, that's because volume is determined by the speaker's sensitivity rating, not so much by the total headroom of an amp. And that's the thing. It's like, it's amazing. You can make guitar players' eyes just gloss over by two simple questions. One, what kind of speakers are in your cabinet? You always get the Celestians. You want to get a guitar player to shut up, especially if they're new. And like, hey, dude, what's your speaker sensitivity rating? Just silence. Because guaranteed they're not going to know. And that's actually one of the most important numbers you can see on your speaker, because that tells you the amount of volume it's going to put out with 1 watt of power going through it. Pretty important stuff. You think guitar players would be a little bit more up on this sort of thing, but then again, that's just wishful thinking. As for the 100-watt amp thing, you might be right, you might not be right. I don't have a definitive answer for you because frankly, I don't know. I will say this. One of the loudest amps I own is my 40-watt Trainer from 1967. That thing is just ungodly loud. It's all hand-wired, point-to-point, the stuff people drool all over. And they built them by the thousands here in Canada, and in the 90s you could get them for next to nothing. Now they're worth, significantly more money. Cool amps. I will say this, though. I have the 100-watt Magnatone SL100. That's the Slash model. That's built to exacting specifications, all hand-built, really just top of the line, everything. And it sounds very good, but when you crank that thing all the way, so, the cabinet's rattling, the whole room is shaking, it does the Van Halen thing, and it does it exceptionally well. That's the sound of a 100-watt amp cranked all the way. All the knobs are at 10. And yeah, it does that. So quieter amps work, but if you want that particular sound, yeah, get the power.
Viewers' comments question. Roughly about 10 years ago, a good number of amp brands started producing 1-watt amp heads. I remember them sounding pretty good. Any idea why they didn't take off, particularly in a studio setting?
Yes, because most guitar players aren't going to pay big bucks for an amp that's only 1 watt. It doesn't matter if it sounds good or not, because guitar players really don't care about valid, repeatable evidence. Belief in this circle is always going to trump evidence.
People Windsor, Albion TCT, Wharfdale TCT will do the Marshall-esque sound. Just plug into Greenback's loaded cap.
Actually, I've got a PB Windsor and I need to do another video on it. I did one like about 10 years ago. Yeah, great little amp. Picked mine up for a whopping $200 brand new at Guitar Center. This is when Guitar Center used to work just on commission. Here was my hack for Guitar Center. If you go in on like a Wednesday night, about 20 minutes before they closed, the guys on the floor were desperate to make any kind of money at all, so they were willing to make deals. Too bad those days are over, aren't they? Anyway, I'm going to grab that Windsor at some point and shoot it out against a couple of different Marshalls and see what we can get. Should be an awfully fun video. Great thing is those Windsors are still out there and you can pick them up for reasonable prices. Stay tuned for that video as well. But I will check out some of those other brand names as well. I don't think I've ever actually heard of the Albion or the Wharfdale. So I'll take a look and see what I can find. Thanks for the suggestion, man. Oh, it's always appreciated. And by the way, if you have suggestions for bargain amps that sound really killer, leave a comment below. I want to hear from you. Help me out. I want to do more content. I want to spread the word and help guitar players out there who might not have a lot of money to waste on really expensive tube amps get the kind of results they've been dreaming about.
Keep eating the hate, Glenn. Just so you're aware, it's you. Yes, you that made me, a 58-year-old who hasn't played in years, realize that the barrier to entry for solid gear is in the hundreds and not thousands of dollar range. I've been watching you for years and finally grabbed an awesome Harley Benton and a used Spark amp for less than $500 and I'm now playing again almost daily. When my wife asked me why I want to do this, I blamed you. So thanks for letting me throw you under the bus.
Yeah, dude, I can't pronounce your name, but thank you very much for writing in there. Hey, you know what? Congratulations on getting back into the instrument, man. If you're playing almost daily, that is great. If you're having fun with it, that's even better. The Spark is a great beginner amp. It's not exactly my choice in the studio, that's for sure. But if it gets you playing, if you're having fun with it, you know what? good for you, man. Life's too short to be miserable. Have a blast playing your guitar, and good for you for getting it all for less than $500. That's awesome. I'm glad the message is getting through. Take care, dude.
Of course we can change our minds on gear, but you made a video promoting a slick audio computers for your viewers that sold for ridiculous prices. Glad you like the Mac, but now all the PC guys that took you seriously will see this as flopping because you were once all PC.
You know, there's a wonderful saying in the first or second Game of Thrones episode that everything said before the word but doesn't mean a damn thing. And I love how you said, of course we can change our minds on gear, but. So apparently I'm not allowed to change my mind on gear. I started out as a PC user for the longest time. I got my first PC in 92? It was a 386 DX40. And I used PCs all the way up until, I don't know, 2019, 2020, something like that. It was when I got to LA and the people I were working with, everybody was based on the Mac system. So they asked that I start working on that just for ease of use. And you know, I liked the system. It was honestly a lot easier and there was a lot less downtime. And when you're doing YouTube as a living, the one thing you cannot afford ever is downtime. That's the main reason I switched. That and ScreenFlow, because PC really doesn't have anything that that touches ScreenFlow. And that just helps me make my show easier. When I've got a tutorial video to do, ScreenFlow will give me a multi-track and I can record all kinds of different things and part it out to different ways and mix it different ways. It's just a magnificent way how to work when I do the show. Yeah, you can use OBS, but I found OBS, especially on PC, to be incredibly unstable, and I was wasting a lot of time with crashed apps. And that really turned me off in a lot of ways because the whole process was just slowing me down. And when it comes to doing YouTube, I'd rather just shoot once and then move on to the edit phase instead of struggle with the system. That's the biggest reason why I changed. But the thing is, if I want to play games, I'm pulling out my PC. I've still got one right over here for exactly that. What am I playing? I'm playing with the Jedi games right now. And I did pull up Battlefield. Apparently there's going to be a new one. Looking forward to that as well. I've been a Battlefield player ever since it first came out. So yeah, looking forward to the new one. Really disappointed that the new Kerbal Space Program was a total dud because I absolutely loved Kerbal Space Program. So that's that. Anyway, yeah, still like my PC for gaming, but when it comes to actually getting shit done, unfortunately, yeah, I've moved over to the Mac, and I really haven't regretted it at all. So there is that as well. But hey, man, if the PC works for you, that's fine too. My advice to you would be this: don't let brand loyalty and tribalism get in the way of you accomplishing your goals.
Tonewood is a real thing. It's organic. No two woods sound the same. It's a ridiculous argument. There's a different amount of resonance from each wood species.
Okay, not going to debate that, but let us know how that's supposed to apply to a closed circuit solid body electric guitar. And not just an opinion piece either. I want actual measurements. Let me know when you can come back with those.
Industry truths, opinions, and genuine wisdom are derived through actual point of view, legitimate professional experience. Where's yours?
Well, other than being viewed hundreds of millions of times on YouTube and having my mixes heard around the world, I got nothing. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch my show. It really does mean the world to me. And once again, I've got that once a year sale going on over at Spectre Digital. It's the spring thing. It's going to end tonight. So if you want to get in on some absolutely incredible deals, now's the time. Anyway, have a wonderful day. And if there's somebody in your life you care about, give them a hug today. Make it count.